If you've ever tried quantum manifestation, thought positive, visualized, repeated affirmations, did everything they told you to do, and your life still stayed exactly the same, there's a reason for that, and it's not what you think. In this video, I'm going to show you how manifestation actually works from the inside, not what the gurus teach, what's really happening in your mind when you try to manifest, and why it keeps getting stuck. I say this because for a long time, I thought it was just about thinking positive until I discovered there was a block running underneath everything, silent, invisible, sabotaging every single attempt before it even had a chance to work. And once you understand what that block is, you'll see why some people get results while others spend years trying and never move forward. That's exactly what we're getting into right now. But before we dive in, hit subscribe, because on this channel we talk about manifestation in a way that actually makes sense 3 times a week, no guru nonsense. And drop a like, because this kind of content needs to reach more people who are out there trying and just can't figure out why nothing's changing. Alright, let's get into it. Quantum manifestation. That name sounds complicated, but the idea behind it is actually simpler than you think. At its core, it comes down to this. The way you think, what you believe is possible for your life, determines what you notice, what you go after, and ultimately what you actually achieve. It's not magic, it's not blind faith, it's a mental pattern. The problem is that most people treat thinking as something passive, like the mind is just a mirror of reality, but it's not. Your mind is a filter, and that filter decides what you see as an opportunity and what you completely miss without even realizing it. Think about it this way. 2 people, same financial situation. One sees the problem and shuts down. The other sees the same problem and asks, okay, how do I fix this? That's not luck. That's the mental pattern each person is running. And what almost nobody explains properly is that this pattern doesn't change with motivation. It doesn't change from reading a motivational quote. It only changes when you understand how it was formed in the first place and how to reprogram it from the inside out. To really get how this works, you need to see the actual mechanism in action. And that's exactly what comes next. Let me break this down in a way nobody ever explained to me when I first started studying this stuff. You have a system in your brain called the reticular activating system. You don't need to memorize that name. What matters is what it does. This system works like a filter. In fractions of a second, it decides what deserves your attention and what gets ignored. And here's the thing, it doesn't filter based on reality. It filters based on what you already believe is true. Here's a classic example. You ever buy a car or start thinking about buying one, and suddenly you start seeing that exact model everywhere you look. The car didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was always there. What changed was your filter. Money and opportunity work the exact same way. When you believe this isn't for me, I never get it right, I'm always short at the end of the month, your brain starts filtering reality to confirm exactly that. It ignores exits. It ignores opportunities. It locks in on the problem. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think the block is not working hard enough. It's not. It's the filter working against you. When manifestation actually works, it's not about attracting things out of thin air. It's about reprogramming that filter, shifting what your mind prioritizes. And when that changes what you notice, the decisions you make, and the actions you're actually willing to take, all of that shifts with it. Now that you understand the mechanism, here's something most people never think about. This doesn't work the same way for everyone. There are different manifestor types, and figuring out which one you are completely changes your results. That's what's coming next. Let me ask you something real quick. When you tried to manifest, how did you go about it? Were you visualizing, repeating affirmations, trying to feel the right emotion? And then at some point the motivation dropped off and you just stopped. If that's you, you're not the exception, you're the majority. The problem is that most people treat manifestation like it's one single thing, like there's only one way to do it. But in practice, there are 3 completely different profiles, and each one gets stuck at a very specific point. The first is the mental manifester. This person lives in visualization. They picture it clearly, feel the emotion, build the whole scene in their head with incredible detail. But the problem is, they stop right there. The mind is working, but the body doesn't move. Action never happens. And without action, the reprogramming stays incomplete. Second is the reactive manifester. This person runs in cycles. When they're excited, they're incredibly productive. When their energy drops, everything stops. The results are all over the place because everything depends on mood, not on a system. This is where a lot of people get confused. They think they lost the gift, when the truth is they never had real structure to begin with. The third is the consistent manifester. This person doesn't wait to feel inspired. They have a practice, a routine, a pattern that repeats whether the day is great or completely rough. The intention is clear, the identity is aligned. Action happens, even on the hard days. I've been through all three. I spent a long time stuck in the second one, thinking I was actually the first. And here's where people get it wrong again. They think the issue is lack of faith or belief. It's not, it's lack of structure. The consistent manifester isn't more spiritual than the others. They just have a system that works regardless of how they feel in the moment. So here's the question we're sitting with. Which one are you right now? Hold on to that answer, because this is exactly where the mistakes start, and most people don't make these mistakes by accident. They make them because they believe things that simply aren't true about how manifestation works. I'm going to be straight with you here. If you've tried to manifest and haven't seen results, there's a real chance you are following a rule that sounds true but isn't. And the worst part, nobody warned you. I believed these things for a long time too, and the whole time I believed them, I stayed in the exact same place. Myth number one, just think positive. This one's the most dangerous because it seems harmless. The idea is simple. Think good thoughts. Attract good things. The problem is that positive thinking without real inner belief is nothing but surface level. You can repeat, I am rich, I am abundant 100 times a day. But if deep down you believe money is hard to come by, that it's not for you, that it always runs out, your subconscious is going to ignore the affirmation and keep running the old pattern. It's not a lack of faith, it's an internal conflict. And that conflict wins every single time. Myth number two, the universe will provide. Just believe. This one turns manifestation into an excuse not to act. The idea that you visualize, release it to the universe, and then just wait for the result to show up. That idea keeps a lot of people sitting still, waiting for something that's never coming. Manifestation without action is just daydreaming. Period. The mental filter changes what you notice and what you go after, but if you're not going after anything, no filter on earth is going to save you. Myth number three, if it didn't work, you vibrated wrong. This one's the most toxic of all. Why? Because it puts the blame on you in a way you can't even verify. You vibrated wrong. How do you know? What are you even supposed to do with that? This kind of explanation solves nothing. It just creates guilt and confusion, and it's exactly the kind of thing that makes people give up, convinced there's something fundamentally wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with you. No, the problem is what you were taught, and it was incomplete. Nobody told you this because shallow content is easier to consume. But shallow content doesn't change lives. So now that you know what doesn't work, it's time to show you what actually does, and more importantly, why it works. After everything I've tested, everything I've seen work and not work, I've landed on a pretty simple conclusion. The approach that actually works isn't the most intense. It's not the most spiritual. It's the most coherent. Let me explain what I mean by that. The mental manifester visualizes constantly but never acts. The reactive manifester acts when they're pumped up, stops when they're not. Both fail at the same exact point. They depend on an emotional state to function, and emotional states are unstable by nature. What actually works is a system built on three pillars that hold each other up. The first is clear intention. Not I want more money, something specific, concrete, something you can actually picture in detail. Vague intention creates vague results. The second is aligned identity. This is the one most people skip entirely. It doesn't matter how much you want something if you still see yourself as someone who doesn't deserve it or can't make it happen. The subconscious follows identity, not desire. The third is consistent action, not action driven by motivation. Action driven by a system. You act because you decided to act, not because you feel like it in the moment. The problem was never trying, it was trying without having all three of these in place at the same time. When all three are aligned, that mental filter I talked about starts working for you instead of against you. You start noticing opportunities you used to walk right past. You make different decisions. You take actions that once felt completely out of reach. And here's where everything shifts. This doesn't require perfection. It requires direction. You already know the path. Now let me show you how to actually start from zero, step by step, no fluff. And this is exactly where most people hit a wall. They understand the problem, they see through the mist, they start to see the path. But the moment it's time to actually apply it, the old pattern pulls them right back, because understanding something isn't the same as reprogramming it. That's why I started using the Forbidden Secret. It's a program that goes straight for the mental blocks, keeping people stuck, especially the financial ones. It's not vague theory. It's a step-by-step guide on how to identify and replace the pattern that's been sabotaging everything underneath the surface. If you recognized yourself in what I've been talking about, check it out. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. See if it resonates with you. Now, getting back to it, after everything I've tested, I can tell you straight up which approach actually works. At the beginning, it feels like a lot. I remember that feeling clearly. You understand the theory, everything makes sense, but then you sit down to actually do it and you freeze. You don't know where to start. You keep waiting for the right moment, the right inspiration, the perfect day that never actually shows up. If I could go back, I'd start exactly like this. 3 steps, no overcomplication. Step 1, define a specific intention. Not I want more money or I want to change my life. That's way too vague for your brain to work with. Pick something concrete, a real specific change you can actually visualize. How much you want to earn, which debt you want to pay off, what situation you want to get out of. The more specific you are, the more your mental filter has to work with. Step 2. Build a mental image of that intention and actually feel it. Not as a distant dream, more like a memory that hasn't happened yet. Every single day, in the first 5 minutes after you wake up, before you grab your phone, before the news, before any conversations, close your eyes and see that scene. Put real emotion into it, not performance, genuine emotion. Why does this work? Because your subconscious doesn't draw a sharp line between what's real and what's felt with real intensity. You start building an internal pattern before the result even exists in the outside world. Step 3, repeat. Every single day, no matter how you feel. This is the step most people abandon the moment their motivation drops. And it's exactly the most important one. The mistake most people make is trying to add complexity before they've built consistency in the basics. 5 minutes a day every morning for 21 days, that's it. Before anything more advanced. If you actually do just this and do it right, you'll start to notice differences, not in the results yet, but in the decisions you make throughout the day. And that's where everything begins. Once this becomes a habit, you're ready to move to a different level, because there's a layer most beginners never even see, and it's exactly what separates the people who stay stuck at the basics from the ones who start getting real results. That's what comes next. There's a point where most people stop without realizing it. They're doing the 5 minutes every morning, they're visualizing, they're trying to stay consistent, but the results don't show up the way they expected, and then the doubt creeps in. Maybe this just isn't for me. The problem isn't doing the practice, it's what's missing while you're doing it. The basics work on intention. What comes next works on identity, and this is the layer most people never actually reach. Remember when I said the subconscious follows identity, not desire? This is where that stops being a concept and becomes something you can actually use. The first adjustment is acting as if. This isn't about pretending you already have the result, it's about making decisions like someone who's on the way there. Think about it this way: how does someone building real financial stability spend their time? What do they consume? Who do they spend time with? What kind of decision do they make when a small opportunity shows up? You don't need to have the result to act like you're in the process. And when you start acting that way, your identity begins to shift from the inside out. That's when things started shifting for me, not when I visualized harder, when I started treating myself like someone who was actually getting there. The second adjustment is tracking your progress. Most people only look at the final result and decide nothing's working, but the process changes before the result shows up. Every weekend, write down one thing that was different, a decision you made differently, an opportunity you noticed that you would have ignored before, a reaction that changed. This seems small, but it changes everything because it feeds your belief with real evidence, not blind faith. And belief backed by real evidence is a lot harder to knock down when the process gets tough. The third adjustment is curating what you consume. Your mental environment is built by everything that comes in, what you watch, what you read, the conversations you have. If the basics are what you do in the morning, the intermediate level is what you feed yourself all day long. You don't need to cut everything out, you just need to be intentional, because you can't reprogram your subconscious in the morning and then spend the rest of the day reinforcing the old pattern. Most people plateau at this level without even realizing they've stopped, and this is exactly where mistakes start costing more. That's what's coming next. Let me tell you about something that took me a long time to see. You can be doing everything right, the intention, the visualization, the identity adjustments, and still hit a wall, not because you're not trying hard enough, because of a silent error running underneath everything. The first one is inconsistency disguised as a pause. Most people don't quit completely. They pause. They do it for a week, skip 2 days, pick it back up, disappear again, and they still think they're in the process. But here's the thing, the subconscious doesn't reprogram through bursts of effort. It reprograms through continuous repetition. Every long pause isn't a fresh start, it's a partial reset. You're going back to square one without even realizing it. I made this mistake myself. I thought I was making progress because I kept coming back. But cycling back to the start isn't the same as moving forward. The second mistake is over-monitoring. This one's quiet and it stalls everything. It's when you start checking to see if it's working, you watch for signs, analyze every situation, wait for proof that the process is going somewhere, and that constant vigilance creates anxiety. The problem is that anxiety and manifestation are opposites. You can't build a new pattern while you're afraid the process isn't working. It's like planting a seed and digging it up every day to check if it's sprouting. The third is having an environment that contradicts everything. This is the mistake I see destroy months of real progress more than anything else. You do your practice in the morning, but then you spend the rest of the day consuming scarcity content, talking to people who reinforce limitation, comparing yourself to people who've already made it. The subconscious doesn't separate those moments, it adds them all up. And if the majority of your day is reinforcing the old pattern, the morning practice alone doesn't have enough weight to shift it. Fixing this doesn't mean cutting everything out of your life. It means being conscious of what you're feeding yourself, because what comes in determines what stays. To help you avoid these mistakes and make this whole process more consistent in practice, let me show you a few tools that can make a real difference. One thing I've learned over time is that this process gets a lot easier when you stop relying purely on willpower and start using structure instead. That's not weakness, that's smart. The right tools do what motivation alone can't sustain. I've tried a lot of different things. What I'm about to share is what actually stayed, what genuinely made a difference in my own process and in the people I've worked with. The first is the intention journal. Simple as it sounds, Every morning, before anything else, you write your main intention in the present tense, one sentence, as if it's already real. It's not about believing it 100% when you write it. It's about pointing your mental filter in the right direction early before the noise of the day takes over. It seems small, but it's one of the most consistently effective practices out there for anyone just starting out. The second is the emotional anchor. This one sounds simple, but it's one of the most powerful things you can do. The idea is to associate a specific emotion, gratitude, calm, expansion, whatever resonates with you, to a simple physical gesture. Could be pressing 2 fingers into your palm, could be a specific breath pattern. With time and repetition, that gesture becomes a shortcut. When you need to get into the right state quickly, before a big decision, a tough conversation, a moment of pressure, you can access it in seconds. The third is the weekly review. I touched on this earlier, but here it becomes an actual tool. Once a week, you sit down and write what shifted, not the final result, the pattern, a decision you made differently, an opportunity you noticed, a reaction that was different from how you would have responded before. This closes the loop between belief and real evidence. And it's what separates the people who quit in month 2 from the ones who keep going, because they can actually see the process working from the inside out. If you were only going to pick one thing from this list, start with the intention journal. It's the simplest, the most consistent, and it builds the foundation for everything else. With everything you've seen so far, let me be real with you about what you can actually expect in terms of results. No empty promises, no illusions. I want to be honest with you right now, because you deserve to hear this before you walk away. Most manifestation content sells you this idea that in just a few days, your life transforms. You visualize, you believe, and the result appears. And when it doesn't, somehow the blame falls on you. I'm not going to do that here. What actually happens for Rio is more gradual, and that's exactly why it holds up over time. If you're just starting out, the first signs aren't going to show up in your bank account. They're going to show up in your decisions. You'll start reacting differently to situations that used to stop you cold. You'll start noticing opportunities you used to walk right past. You'll start feeling like certain conversations and certain environments just don't match where you're heading anymore. This happens in the first few weeks, and it's the most important signal there is, because it means the mental filter is actually shifting. At the intermediate level, once the consistency is locked in, the impact starts showing up in the real world. Better financial decisions, actions that once felt too risky start making sense. Opportunities you would have ignored 3 months ago are suddenly worth stopping to look at. It's not a miracle, it's the result of a different mental pattern producing different behavior. The change starts happening before it ever shows up in the external result. And most people give up right before this phase because they're not seeing numbers move yet, without realizing the process is already working on the inside. What doesn't happen fast is structural financial transformation. That takes months of real, sustained consistency. People who expect results in 7 days are going to quit. People who understand they're rebuilding a pattern that took years to form, those are the ones with strategic patience. Boson South Master Strategic Constantment. Those are the ones with strategic patience. Those are the ones with strategic patience. And strategic patience isn't resignation. It's knowing you're on the right path even when the result hasn't shown up yet. To pull all of this together and give you a clear roadmap for where to start and where to go next, let me show you the full plan. If I had to summarize everything you've seen in this video into one simple path, it would be this. It's not about doing a lot, it's about doing the right things in the right order. Phase 1, the starting point. For the first 7 days, one thing only: define your intention clearly and set aside 5 minutes every morning to visualize it before you look at any screen. Don't complicate it, don't add anything else yet. The goal of this phase is to build the habit and start steering the mental filter. Consistency here matters way more than intensity. What to avoid in this phase: affirmations that conflict with what you actually believe deep down, and checking for results before you've given the pattern enough time to actually form. The milestone: you'll know you're ready to move forward when those 5 minutes become automatic, when you don't have to remind yourself to do it, you just do. That usually happens somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks. When you get there, it's time for phase 2. Phase 2, the refinement. Here's where you add acting as if into your daily decisions. You start the intention journal, one sentence written every morning in the present tense. You begin the weekly review to track what's shifting in your pattern. And you do a real audit of your environment. What you're consuming, who you're spending time with, what you're feeding yourself throughout the day. You don't have to overhaul everything at once. You just need to be aware of what's coming in. The minimum viable version, if this is all you do: clear intention, 5 minutes every morning, consistent for 30 days. If you actually do just this, no skipping, no checking results every other day, you'll already be ahead of most people. You'll already start to feel the shift in your pattern. Now you understand the mechanism, you know the types, you know the mistakes, you have the approach, and you have the plan. You've got everything you need. Now it comes down to actually doing it. Now, to bring all of this together and give you a clear path from where you are right now to the next level. If you watch this far, you already have something most people never get: real clarity on how this process actually works. You know what blocks it, you know what drives it, you know where to start. That already puts you ahead. But clarity without structure can still keep you going in circles, and that's where the forbidden secret is different. Not to teach you what manifestation is, you already know that, but to walk you through the actual application, step by step, so you're not out there trying to put the puzzle together on your own. If you're ready to stop understanding and start seeing results, the link is in the description. And drop a comment below. What did you realize you were doing wrong this whole time? I genuinely want to read your answer. If you know someone who keeps trying to change their life but can't seem to get any traction, send them this video. It might be exactly what they need to hear. Subscribe to the channel, because every week I bring this kind of straight, no fluff breakdown for people who are serious about actually getting out of this phase. Now it's on you. See you in the next one.